I was experiencing subconscious healing, but I specifically sought it out for healing my relationship problem. I wasn't able to have long-term relationships. I called it my 18-month curse. I couldn't get past 18 months in any relationship. And I'd met somebody that was my soulmate, that I wanted this relationship to work. And that's where I went to heal my heart and my ability to have more love in my life. And as a side effect, my business exploded.
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. Hello everybody, welcome to this episode where I am joined by Natasha Leigh Bray. She's a success mastery coach and healer for women in business, and particularly women who want to unlock more success, which we're going to delve into in this episode today. Natasha's built a multi-seven-figure business, and she's also the founder of the School of Healing Mastery, where she actually teaches other people how to do what she does, which you're going to learn all about on this episode. Natasha, a huge welcome to the podcast.
Hi Lucy, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm really, really excited to delve into this. Just tell us a little bit more about you and what that means so that our audience really fully understand what it is you do.
Yeah, so thank you for the lovely intro. I'll tell you a little bit more about what I do. So I actually help women unlock more success. So quite a unique approach where I blend psychology and spirituality to help them heal the things that have perhaps impacted them throughout their lives that are now holding themselves back in their businesses. So I uncover what I call the hidden wounds, the hidden root causes of why perhaps they're not achieving what they want to achieve in their businesses, and also how that then ripples out into their lives as well.
Amazing. I love that you use psychology in that, and it's such a big part of it. And you combine the science with the spirituality side of that too. Just talk to me a little bit about that, because I think the two aren't that different, but they can be perceived as very different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we grow up believing that science and spirituality are very different. I don't know how spiritual you are, but I was definitely what I would call a closet spiritual for a long time,
Yeah.
because I came from a psychology background. I was training to be a psychologist. So those two worlds were not allowed to coexist. But what I realized in my own personal journey of transformation and creating the success that I have, overcoming all of the sabotage that happened along the way, was that the more I integrated psychology and healing from a psychological perspective, and also spirituality, something beyond the normal science side of things, actually the more successful I became, and in a very short space of time. So that combination of both helped me heal and transform and create huge amounts of success. And I realized that there was something I could do with this. I was getting those things separately, and then I thought, why don't I just bring these together so that I can help more women achieve the things that they want to achieve. What success is to them, of course, is different to everyone, through this magical combination.
That's just amazing. How quickly are we talking? Like, out of interest, if you're like, actually, once you get this combination right, doesn't need to take too long. Like, what kind of scale of growth happened for you in what sort of period?
Well, it's a bit of a crazy story, actually. So in 2017, I left my social work career. I was a single mum at the time. I had a 10-month-old baby, my first child. And my business was making around, I had a business on the side, sorry, I better explain that bit, where I was actually making health food from home and selling all of these nutritious health foods all over the UK. So very different business to what I have now. And my business was making around $3,000 a month, which is not to be sniffed at, great. I'd been running that business a few years by that point, though. So I had a plateau. Like, I wasn't able to hit the 5K a month mark. That was what I was aiming for. And just because of the situation I was in at the time, I was actually signed off work with postnatal depression after having my first child. And It was kind of one of those it's now or never moments for me. I just felt like my business was definitely my true path. And I gave in my notice. I left my job. It was crazy looking back because I just split up with my partner. Now I was leaving my job and I was going to rely on my business for an income. And it wasn't really making as much as it needed to be at that point in time. It was the year after 2018 that I first discovered this combination of healing myself and combining that with spirituality. So that was 2018. March 2018, I had my first 10K month.
Wow.
So for 4 years, I hadn't even been able to hit a 5K month. And when I started to heal, and when I talk about healing, I mean on a subconscious level as well, so working with your subconscious mind and combining that with spiritual practices and spiritual healing, my business started to explode really fast. So between March 2018, that was my first 10K month. By the end of 2019, I had my first 6-figure month. And by 2020, I had a 7-figure business.
What? Like, that's amazing. That's mind blowing. Like, in terms of, and people do talk about speed and, that, yeah, once you unlock something, it's quite quick. But what do you think that is the pivot in there? Like you said about healing on a subconscious level, and I get that. But why? Like, why does that have such a profound impact on those? I'm sure it has an impact on all the other outcomes, like you said, relationships, family, life, lifestyle, health,
Yeah.
but particularly talking about business here and revenue. Like,
Yeah.
what? Why?
Well, I just want to mention that was a journey in itself too, like
Okay.
having the balance of the other things alongside that growth and the journey of overcoming the sabotage there. But it's all interlinked. And the reason why healing yourself significantly changes your business is because you are the biggest block in your business. It's how you think and feel about yourself that affects how you show up and the things that you believe that you're worthy of, or the things that you think you're capable of, the ways that we hide as well, or fears of success. Even though we want success, also deep down there's also fears around that, like what will I have to lose to get that, and how will people treat me if I am all of a sudden a lot more successful or more successful than them. So we think that a lot of people think that they're scared of failure, but more people have a fear of success than failure.
Yeah, definitely, that I can relate to that for sure. And even in the context of who will I become, or the things. So one of mine I identified a few years back was, if I reach X level of success and this is becomes my reality, I won't need anyone to look after me. That after peeling back layer after layer after layer, I was like, oh, it comes down to, I wouldn't need anyone to look after me. What does that mean? Everyone might leave, everyone might go, I'll be alone. It kind of, the root underneath it, there was like, so maybe there's a part of you that's sabotaging that success, because deep down you feel that having people around you equals people need to look after you. I lost a
Yeah.
parent as a teenager. So, those sorts of losses and things, I think, can trigger that. And it makes you,
Yeah.
well, okay, I need to keep people in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what you're describing there is that fear of abandonment.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
we all have a fear of abandonment in some way, shape, or form. And we just have different reasons behind it. Your root cause was about losing a parent. A lot of our fears and our beliefs and how we think and feel about ourselves actually do come back down to our parents and our upbringing and experiences that we had in school and in the home. So it makes sense because your whole life as a child is school and home, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. So the power of the subconscious mind is something I'm fascinated with anyway, just in the work I do. But how you then can heal, I guess, would you say then that it starts at a subconscious level? Is that where the magic happens?
Definitely. So that was the first stage of my journey. I knew a lot. I come from a
Yeah.
psychology background. I did a master's in behavior change. I'd done a social work master's. I had a lot of experience and knowledge. But I hadn't been able to actually change myself from that. I had a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of difficulties around being able to hold on to money, difficulties with relationships and love, that type of thing. So all of this knowledge, all of these degrees and masters and all of the things, yet I still couldn't change myself.
Mm.
And then I discovered subconscious healing work. So, hypnotherapy, regression therapy, that type of thing.
Mm.
And that unlocked a whole new world for me, way faster than any type of conscious therapy or transformation tools that I'd ever learned about or experienced. And then things went a little step further where I started to work with the heart, especially, and the hidden wounds of the heart. So I really believe that when we start to transform on that subconscious and heart level, that's where things really fast, really rapidly change for us. Because a lot of those wounds that I talked about, they are wounds of the heart. The wound of abandonment is a wound of the heart.
Yeah.
The fear of success is the fear of, it's because you don't feel safe. A lot of it is your feelings linked to the
Yeah.
heart. I actually believe the root cause of a lot of our wounds and fears and sabotaging patterns is actually relationships, not experiences. And I think that's a different approach that I have coming from the background in social work and psychology, and also healing from my own childhood trauma. And everything is a relationship. So you are in a relationship with your business, you are in a relationship with money, you're in a relationship with yourself, of course, as well, and people. And so when you heal that relationship with yourself, all the other relationships you have, there's like a positive ripple effect and change in that then.
That makes so much sense, because even just in usually the closest relationship, maybe your spouse or your partner, but even in how you show up in relationships like that, it's usually a reflection of how you feel about yourself, right? So, and I always say in business, it's all about relationships, no matter which angle you're looking at it. It's all about relationships. So, whilst there's that power of relationships going forward and building, you're looking at that as, okay, but what in the past or deep down that's maybe buried in our subconscious somewhere that's relationship related is potentially creating a sabotage.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So there, a lot of people, they talk about how your relationship with yourself does everything is a reflection of that. But how do you change your relationship with yourself? And what I discovered was actually you only truly change your relationship with yourself when you change your relationship with the people who led to you creating your identity.
Right.
So who contributed to your belief of who you are, yourself, essentially. And so this is why a lot of the healing work that contributes to massive growth for women is actually linked to the key relationships that were part of their life. Parents, caregivers, teachers also come up quite a lot in this work, secondary to parents and family members. And even if a parent wasn't around, inside, we still have a relationship with that parent. It still affected our sense of self and our identity in some way.
So if the parent isn't around, then it sort of doesn't matter whether you see them all the time or they're not even with us anymore, because the work you need to do is within anyway. And I'm a big advocate of ownership and self-work, and nothing out there and no one out there can fix that except you. But there are people who do sometimes put that onus, and I know several people who almost blame upbringing, parent circumstances for who they are and how they are today. How do you talk to somebody who's perhaps looking to the parent to heal them? Even now as an adult, looking at an adult child looking at their parent going, well, it's because of this and this when I was a kid. what are you going to do about that? Like, they can't do anything about that. You have to do that yourself. Like, where does somebody like that, where do you start? Because not everybody's a model student like me.
Well, what you're describing there is very common, by the way, and it's not actually the adult self talking in that moment, it's their child self.
Yeah.
Because no one who is, and we all have a child self, an inner child, and we all do things and we're like, oh my gosh, that is so not adult of me to do that or to act in that way. So, but when we have an unhealed inner child, then we're often operating from the age that we were when we experienced that wound. So it's usually the child self that's showing up at that moment in time in that relationship, not the age that you are now. And that's because that child part of you has unmet needs from those times. And
Wow.
so we have to, our adult self has to help our child self to heal and be able to, you'd call it integrate, and show that child self, like, I'm the one who can meet your needs now. And we're powerful together, you know?
That no one else can, that, you know, your potentially now aging parent isn't going to be able to go back and fix that for you, that you've got to.
And I think a lot of stumbling blocks around healing and releasing all of this stuff from the past come where we are expecting a parent to change. And we are still expecting a parent to be a different parent to us. And one of the most freeing things that you can do is just accept who they are. That doesn't mean you accept, or it doesn't mean you accept bad treatment or how you were treated or anything like that. It's more like the pain keeps happening because you're expecting them to change and you're expecting them to be that parent you want, and they're not going to change. If they haven't changed by now, they're probably not going to. And so that repeat disappointment and pain, and the pain of those wounds of your heart being triggered, is coming from you expecting them to be different. And so the most powerful, freeing thing you do is accept who they are, accept that it wasn't your fault, that they weren't the parent that you needed them to be, and accept they're not going to change, because that just frees all of you. That frees everyone in that dynamic. And when I talk about, I think it's important for your listeners, when I talk about wounds and things that might have happened in childhood, I went through a very abusive childhood, but not everyone has been through what we would consider abuse. And we have these wounds, even if you haven't experienced what we would call big traumas. I believe trauma and wounds are more around how you were made to feel. So there are universal wounds that we all have. We've all felt not good enough at some point. It doesn't mean that our parent or anyone else intentionally made us feel that way, but we have all felt not good enough, or we've all felt not loved or not worthy or disappointed in ourselves, or we've all been betrayed, right? Yeah. So these are universal human experiences that lead to wounds.
Yeah.
And we want to avoid feeling that way again, because it does not feel good. So what happens then is we create these masks, masks that we wear to stop feeling those horrible feelings again. So your mask is, you don't want to feel abandoned. So what do you do? Is it people pleasing, overgiving?
Yeah, probably all of the above. Yeah.
So this is a very common thing. It's actually probably the biggest saboteur amongst women. Around 8,000 women have gone through my online assessment on the 5 different sabotaging patterns. I call them the saboteur archetypes. And this fear of abandonment and this overgiving, people pleasing, difficulties saying no, difficulties with boundaries is the most common one amongst female entrepreneurs. And as a result, we end up undercharging, overgiving, not perhaps having the life that we need alongside giving to everyone else.
No boundaries, burning out, all those kind of classic. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
So when you actually...
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
No, it's because I like that you mentioned that it's not always a big trauma or a big thing, and that yes, there are situations where a parent may have actually mistreated or let a child down, but there are other times where actually they've just done the best they can as a parent and not realized that they may have unintentionally left a message of something. It's partly how a message is delivered, but it's also partly how it's received, and so you've got two people's realities there, and the parent's reality could have actually been perfectly acceptable and fine and coming from a place of love, but it may have actually been received or taken by a child in a different way for whatever reason. And I think it's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think if somebody is listening thinking, well, I had a golden childhood, it was wonderful, and there can't be any trauma there, it's like, but there could be things that play on a subconscious level where something was said and you didn't realize that actually that was really embarrassing. Therefore, your subconscious is making sure you avoid any scenario like that where you will ever again feel embarrassed or ashamed or not good enough or whatever. So it's sometimes not obvious, right? It doesn't have to be a big obvious parent died or a bit,
Yeah. Well, like I say, we do have those big traumas, of course, and then we have what we call little t traumas, which are those things like, that maybe you had an older sister or an older brother and you always felt not good enough in comparison to them because they were more age advanced than you. So of course they are further ahead. But if you felt you were always being compared to somebody else, or you yourself were always comparing yourself to a friend or a sibling, you've got that wound of not enough in you.
Yeah.
And so when you're in business, you find you're always comparing yourself to others, worrying about what other people are doing, rather than focusing on just being you and that you're enough as you are and showing up in that way.
The not enough theme is definitely one that runs strong with me. And as a achiever, being high on my strength list, it's also, and I'm diagnosed with ADHD. I know that it's partly that there's a drive there. So no matter what I achieve, I'll have already raised the bar. So you never quite have that celebration because you've already pushed it up again and up again. So it always feels like not enough. And so that coupled, go on.
That is what I call the hustler success saboteur.
Yeah.
Where you're always moving the goalposts and it does not matter how much, you'll hit your target and you're like, oh, what's the next one? There's no celebration. There's no just absorbing and being in that moment. It's like, right, move the goalpost. What's the next target? What's the next target? You do see that a lot in entrepreneurship. There is, I also have an ADHD diagnosis and high achiever. And it's quite common because there is a much higher proportion of high achievers and people with ADHD in entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah, especially women, right?
But also much higher percentage of women with these wounds, these hidden wounds. And so the hustler saboteur is that workaholic, always trying to achieve more, do more, because your worth is attached to doing more and achieving more.
Yeah. Which comes back to the, I guess, being proud, being enough. And in some way, I'm sure that links as well to relationships and recognition or whatever it might be that validates. Yeah, there's such a link there. And it's a relief to know that it's common. But how do we start to, I'm sure there'll be people listening that are like, oh my God, that's me when they hear this. What does somebody do as a first step, towards overcoming these saboteurs that are at play?
I think initially is that awareness that this is very normal, because everybody thinks there's something wrong with me because we don't know that everybody else is actually dealing with exactly the same thoughts, feelings, sabotaging patterns as we are. And when you start to make it something wrong or bad about you, then shame comes in. And then that leads to even more of a downward spiral of sabotaging patterns, not not showing up in your business, or disconnecting in relationships, all of these things. So I think the first and most important thing is awareness that these are universal, common wounds and sabotaging patterns that everyone has. It's normal. There's nothing wrong with you. And just catching, when you know about the 5 different saboteurs, you're able to just catch it and realize, okay, this is what's happening. And it doesn't lead to as much of a spiral as it might normally. And then I think one of the things that you can do as a self-healing task is, and this is going to sound really strange until you actually do it. Have you ever heard of therapeutic letters?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So it's basically where you write a letter to yourself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. The like forgiveness letters or like that kind
Yeah.
of thing, or like future
Yeah, it could
type.
be. There's so many different ways of doing
Okay.
therapeutic letters. So you
Yeah.
could write a letter to the inner child part of you that
Okay.
really
Yeah.
needs some love and support and needs to hear praise and all of those things. But you can actually write a letter to the saboteur part of you. So there's 5 I call them success saboteur archetypes. There's the overgiver that we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
the imposter, the outcast, the overprotector, and the hustler. And I've got a quiz where you can identify which one is your biggest one, so you can get to know that in a bit more detail. And then you can write a letter to that part of you, because it's just a part of you that is showing up to try and protect you and keep you safe from feeling a painful feeling. The only problem is actually sabotaging us and holding us back. They're kind of old patterns, old masks that we developed from our childhood. So you can write a letter to that part of you, just asking it to become something else now. So tell it what you want it to become instead, what you want it to do instead of the things that it is currently doing to try and help and protect you. I know it sounds really strange, but then you read that letter out loud. So there's a different level of healing and power that comes from writing to verbalizing and releasing verbally something. So that would be a little self-healing task that I could recommend that you do. Ideally, you would start to seek out some sort of healing or therapeutic work around actually addressing the root causes, the deep root causes, the ones that you perhaps don't even realize are there, relating to each of those saboteurs.
That's brilliant. And I think when you say that as well about writing and verbalizing, that makes so much sense, because I'm sure lots of us know that when you journal and write stuff down, you can kind of get it out on a page, and that it's therapeutic in itself. But verbalizing, so I know that if I talk something through with a friend or a colleague and it just feels better and feels clearer, rather than in my notepad, it could be an idea or a strategy and I've kind of written down the thought, but when you actually talk it through, it takes it in a completely different way. It makes it clearer and helps you to, I guess, embody it more. And I suppose it's the same, but from a healing perspective. And by verbalizing that, because I'm sure most of us keep all of this stuff locked up inside, right? And even if we're thinking those things, it's just thoughts and it's just stuff swimming around in our body and in our energy. But when you pop that into words and then say it out loud, you're getting out of the body.
Yeah. It is both a very healing writing as well, but there's just a different level that comes from verbalizing. And I think it's also important to just remember that anytime you are sabotaging, sabotage just sounds like such a horrible word, doesn't, like, oh, a negative. But all it is a part of you doesn't feel safe. It's actually a protection, not a sabotage. So it's just identifying what is making me feel unsafe. If you are sabotaging in any way, something has made you feel not safe. So identifying what is it that has made you feel not safe, and your own resources, and what makes you feel safe. What things help you feel safe again, and bringing those in.
What might they be? Like, what kinds of things could help any of those archetypes? So we can pick on one if you like,
Mm,
but like, what sorts of things might, that's where my mind's going now. Like, what might
yeah.
they be?
So let's talk about the outcast because we haven't dived into that
Yeah.
yet. So the outcast success saboteur archetype, that's the one that is scared of being seen.
Okay.
And not just visible. A lot, so you might have visibility issues
Yeah.
and find that you don't like marketing yourself, you don't like selling.
I'm all of these.
We are all of them. That is the point. I think.
Okay.
But we have them in different strengths. One will be stronger than the others, for example.
Mm.
So you don't like being seen, you don't like being visible, and you may find that personally you might reject other people before you think they're going to reject you. And some people, they are actually visible and they will happily speak on stages, but they're still wearing a mask and they're actually too scared to be seen as their real self. So as long as they're showing up, either you're completely off being seen at all, no way would you catch me on a stage speaking, that type of thing, or they are on the stage, but they're just wearing a false persona so that people don't get to know the real them. So that's the outcast. I had such a strong outcast that I had to overcome to be able to get my work out there to more people. I literally couldn't do a live video without shaking and sweating because I had a lot of bullying trauma from school that made me feel not safe to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain things that we can do practically that can help us to feel safer. So having notes, rather if you do need to do a live, like preparing in advance, having notes that you can look at if you need to, just practical things that can help you feel a bit safer around going into that situation. The action, I do feel that action is healing as well, and that's a piece that a lot of people miss. So if you are somebody who does a lot of healing already and a lot of internal work, personal development, and you're not seeing the results you want to see in your business, it's because you're only doing internal healing and you need to bring in some action healing too. And that means doing the thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the inner healing alongside the action healing is
Mm.
usually the best combination. And just doing the thing, the more that you do that thing that you're scared of, the less scary it becomes, the less
Mm.
you're going to sabotage yourself around it.
Makes total sense. It's again taking that from knowing and understanding to doing. So again, if you're listening to this, you're going, oh, okay, I get that now. And I'm gonna do these things internally, but actually, yeah, put in those actions. I can so relate because I can go on a stage happily. I could go on a podcast, put a mic in my hand, put me on national television. I'll be fine. Get me on social media, just random stuff that's not pre-planned, polished, and clear, and know why, and I just don't do it because I'm seeking that. It's almost a perfectionist as well, but like I've not thought of it in the sense of, well, it's probably almost that mask because you want to be protecting. That perfectionist is coming from protecting what you put out there rather than just throwing it all out there for fear of rejection, ridicule,
Yeah.
hate, and all those things that, yeah, that's really interesting. They are different. I actually had a conversation just this week with somebody who was saying the same about how big visibility isn't necessarily the problem. It's sometimes more the smaller, which is
Mm,
where maybe the more, I say more vulnerable. I'm okay in a, one to one. I'll tell somebody the deepest. I'm very transparent and open, but it's that medium level visibility
yeah.
where it's yeah,
It's your
that's really,
comfort zone.
yeah.
Whereas I'm different. Like I cannot be on a stage. I've had to do so much work around this. I say I cannot. I can, but it's very scary for me to do, even with all of the work that I've done.
Mm,
Although I did film for a big film that is coming out soon that is going to be seen by millions of people.
yeah.
That is the scariest thing I have ever done. And my outcast saboteur came up massively to try and stop me doing it. I have this habit of saying yes and then disappearing for a while I figure out how to
How,
grow into the person I need to be to do it.
that's great though, because you're pushing yourself to stretch the comfort zone
Mhm.
and expand.
And that's what a lot of this is. We all have our comfort zone, and we all have what I call a capacity to receive.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is there's a certain level of success and love and good things that we believe that we can have.
Mm.
And when you get near that edge of that capacity, you start to freak out a little bit inside, all the subconscious stuff. And because a part of you is like, this is all you're allowed, this is all is safe, this is all you're worthy of. And so when you get near those edges, that's when the sabotage starts to happen. So in order to expand the level of love, money, success, all of the things, impact that we have, we got to continuously expand those edges. And that's what healing does. It allows us to continuously expand what we believe we are worthy and able to have.
Is it always some form of fear that keeps us in that wall, like, of capacity and prevents us pushing through? Does it always come down to what a fear in some way or other?
I'd say it always comes down to a wound of the heart, and that is linked to a fear, a certain fear that is a universal fear, like the fear of betrayal, the fear of being seen, the fear of being rejected. So I would say yes. It usually is some sort of fear. Lots of people have a fear of failure. Lots more people have a fear of success, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The fear
But
of
the fear
abandonment.
comes from the wound, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
whoever was the first person that made you feel that way, that's the root of healing it.
Got you.
So
Yeah.
if you have a strong overgiver, I know we mentioned that earlier. So that's really connected to the fear of abandonment and not feeling lovable or likable as who you are. So you're always overgiving and trying to get people to like you and to not leave you, essentially. So who was the first person that made you feel that you had to be that in order to keep them around? So that's usually where I take people back to.
Start there.
And heal the relational root cause of that to free your heart and free you from that pattern then. But you will meet the edges of that again. So I'm always continuously working on expanding my capacity. Because the way I describe this is the kind of healing and expansion you need to do to receive 10K months in your business and a great relationship and not sabotaging your health or your relationships in that process. There's another layer that you need to do to expand to 100K months and love and health. That's sabotage. So it is this continuous journey of expansion.
Yeah. I love the way you phrase that. It makes so much sense. And they say, I've heard we have a sort of set point of income or, and that's probably to do with that. So what is perceivable to you, and that's probably where plateaus come from. And then that expansion work is required to break through that ceiling and reach the next one. And I do see this with lots of people where the speed of that comes in, and it's obviously taking this into a sort of a spiritual level. I guess I'm really curious to. So I don't know why, and I wonder if you could shed some light on it. But I firmly believe that if you are, for instance, happy, have fulfilling relationships with yourself and with others and so on, you will make more money. But I can't quantify that in any way or explain why. I just almost have this like, yes, you have to take care of those things because ultimately that will lead to, like, I know that's really quite almost like a crude thing, have happy relationship, make more money, but where's the science in that, Natasha?
But I think that's more a wisdom piece than a science piece. And we
Okay.
all have those, because that's your wisdom as part of your purpose that you're meant to share and help others with. And I definitely believe in holistic success. And that is important because otherwise there's no point having all this money and all of these accolades and all of this business success, if your life is falling apart and you're stressed and burned out and on the verge of a breakdown in the background, that's not really success.
No.
So there's obviously something in your journey. And I think a lot of people will agree with that, that you need this holistic success, multidimensional success.
Mm.
And I call it the lottery effect, where you see all these people, they win the lottery and their whole life crumbles. And it's because they didn't actually have the internal capacity to hold that level of money alongside everything else that they had. You see,
Yeah.
it's the celebrities as well. So many
Yeah.
celebrities with drug addictions, alcohol addictions, dying young is horrific. It's sad because they've got all of that success and recognition, but they are very wounded from their own traumas and childhood experiences, and they haven't had an opportunity to really heal that. They thought they'd be happy when they were successful.
Or that achievement would create
The happiness
the
and the fulfillment.
happiness, their definition of success.
Yeah.
But and you hear all the time when people who do go through that and fully understand it and say, well, actually, this doesn't buy me happiness, or this isn't the route, this isn't true success. But I almost, it's fearful for somebody to win the lottery and having this crazy amount of money land on them that they're unprepared for, potentially not even educated enough in how to manage it. I think is kind of dangerous. It can lead to the downfall. I would love to actually hear some really good stories of lottery wins that have turned into something really positive, but don't often, I suppose, the
Yeah.
quiet
Oh,
stories.
yes, there probably is.
There must be somewhere.
But coming back to what you said about the relationship piece, and I think this actually just reminded me of the most important foundation for my success to grow from was love.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't really go. There's just so much story to share. You need to pull out the best parts. But what you said reminded me actually of how my business started to dramatically grow. And I was experiencing subconscious healing, but I specifically sought it out for healing my relationship problem. I wasn't able to have long-term relationships. I called it my 18-month curse. I couldn't get past 18 months in any relationship. And I'd met somebody that was my soulmate, that I wanted this relationship to work. And that's where I went to heal my heart and my ability to have more love in my life. And as a side effect, my business exploded. So love was the foundation for that success to grow.
That's what I mean. And but I kind of think, is that true for everyone, or is that case by case? Because I almost feel like surely that is universal. Like whether it's with a significant other or with yourself, I think
Yeah.
it comes back to what you were saying near the beginning, actually, that healing the heart is the secret almost.
Yeah. It
In
is. I
whatever
think
it means to be, in whatever healing the heart means to the individual.
yeah, I think it is available to everyone, but not if you believe it isn't, right? So
Right.
lots of people believe that you can only have this or this. You can only have love and not money. Or you can
Okay.
only have money and not love, right? This is one of the biggest sabotaging beliefs that women entrepreneurs have. It is linked to the hustler saboteur as well. This belief that you can't have it all. You can't have money and love. You can't have health and a seven-figure business, or you can't be a mother and a millionaire. Whatever everyone's got this belief that they have to choose between things, rather than really believing and feeling that they get to have it all. So that can come in the way of them actually having it all in their lives, whatever all is to them.
And then so the hustler saboteur in that case would probably then hustle so much to prove themselves right, as in, yeah, see, because I'm too busy for
Yeah.
being present with my family, I'm too busy for healthy eating and getting some exercise or taking a break, because I have to hustle, 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 thus proving self-fulfilling prophecy of,
Mm.
see, yeah, can't have all it because I have to. Like, I've definitely had times and periods of doing that, and so I think it's knowing that you don't have to hustle and, I guess, apply yourself in that way in order to have a 7-figure business. You can create a 7-figure business whilst also having space and, relationships and health. Less is more, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to do you find that? Have you found that it takes less application of effort of hustle to generate 7 figures or to create a 6-figure month than it was when you were trying to get to 5K months? Is there any correlation there?
I think there's definitely some groundwork that needs to be done. A lot of it is really about, initially, I think it's about really stepping into who you are as a leader
Mm,
and really like stepping into that empowered version of you. So if you want to create a 7-figure business, becoming the 7-figure woman
mm,
who then creates the 7-figure business, right? It's that identity shift away from
mm.
these sabotaging identities to who am I becoming in order to make that happen?
Yeah.
Can you say the question again? Sorry.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. So I was just trying to understand, how the kind of narrative of doing less to achieve more. And so
Yeah.
if you are hustling and hustling and hustling just to get from your 3 to 5K month,
Yeah.
and putting in, sabotaging all your health and life and relationships to do it, I guess what I'm asking is, do you find having 6-figure months actually takes less of that because of the way you're showing up and the way you will apply yourself? You can't do it from that energy.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
I guess that's what I'm asking. Is like, it's not. I guess it's not less work. It's less
Yeah.
hustle. So
Yeah, definitely. So I actually have like a quote of mine that you don't have to hustle your way to success. You can heal your way there.
yeah.
A lot of people are very driven by their wounds, right? That's what makes us high achievers and driven and ambitious and ends up to, leads to us being in business. And a
Yeah.
lot of people are actually scared that they'll lose their drive and their motivation if they actually address what has made them that way. And
Mm,
I actually discovered that a lot more success can happen from a place of love
mm,
and from a more healed place than the more wounded place where you're always sabotaging and hustling and working hard for it, working yourself into the ground. And I think a key piece I'd like to share here is about the spiritual aspect,
yeah.
because I call it the difference between the logical and the magical. And
Love
women are not meant to do business the way that men do it. Not everyone will agree with that statement, but we have a different energy that we can bring to business and creation, creating impact, creating money. And anytime I try to logically build my business with the hard work and the hustle and this would be what you'd be taught in business school, for example. It does not work.
that. Mm,
But when I tap into intuition, because I've healed my self trust and my ability to trust myself and make powerful decisions and stand by my decisions instead of changing my mind all the time. When I connect to my intuition and connect to universal guidance, every single successful thing I've ever created, every move I've made has been guided. I've never had a business plan, yet I've made $7 million in the last few years.
amazing. Yeah.
Every single bit has been spiritually guided
Mm-hmm.
or guided by my higher self, however you want to describe it. We've all got the different thing that we connect to.
Yeah.
And even when it doesn't make sense, I still just take the leap,
Mm,
say yes, and then figure out how I'm going to do it afterwards.
yeah.
I just take the leap. And even if it doesn't make sense to me, the other thing, So I say the logic kills the magic. That's definitely how it works in my business for some reason. And I think it's because we're here to be, I think we're here to change the world in our own unique way.
Mm.
And when you really connect to heart and soul, that helps you create and deliver what you're here to do so much more powerfully than operating from our head, which is all of those saboteurs, all of the doubts, all of the fears.
Yeah.
So I know that might sound a bit fluffy to some people listening.
Well, I love it. It resonates with me. I think it's a case of it. People will digest that as and when and how they're ready, and but having the conversation and talking about this and listening to this is going to be beneficial anyway to anybody, even if they're not quite on that like path yet or fully understanding that yet. I think that's something that comes, doesn't it, with when you start to connect to these things. You start to then go, okay, yes, that makes sense. And that's when you said about it being expansion. It's a ever expanding thing. You don't become a pro at this kind of thing overnight. You have to start and act upon these things. It's actually very exciting when you think about it. We are here. I very much we're here to make some form of impact or difference. Like, I want my last day to be, I want to be able to go, yeah, I did good. I made a difference. Like, ideally one that lasts beyond me, that goes way, way past that. That, to me, that's like the whole point. We're not here to just muddle through and then check out. If we're so stuck with conditioning and hustle and survival, we can't even tap into what that is. So being able to heal, and I guess everyone has to, you'd like to think you can bring a child into the world and make sure it's all perfect forever so they never have to do the work. We're all going to have to do the work, right? At some point there's work to do, but then you can operate from your highest place, show up as your best. I don't like that phrase, your best self, but it's true. It is. It's like, yeah. And that's when whatever success is for you, it doesn't have to be 7-figure businesses, but I know lots of our listeners, that's the, part of the success vision.
I never thought that I would have a multi 7-figure business when I first began. I was just thinking, hey, if I can create a 6-figure business, that would be amazing. And then it just kept going and going. And this is kind of I think sometimes the beauty of not trying to control it so much, control the how, control the when. And that's that bringing in a little bit of trust.
Yeah.
Trust that you can be guided as long as you are. I really believe that your income is a reward for your impact in the world. And when you're always showing up from a place of how can I make a difference today? How can I change a life today? Yeah. You get rewarded for that financially. Mm-hmm. And tapping into, I call it co-creation with the universe. That you're not doing this alone. Actually, if you want to open up to that support, it is there. And magical things can happen way quicker and way more than what you ever put on your vision board. Yeah. When you are tapping into that.
Yeah. I mean, we teach that as well. Like, if you're aiming for the money, you're going to just repel it and it's never going to happen. But if you're aiming for the impact and the outcome and the difference you want to make, the money that's over there that comes as a byproduct. And it's like you said, this is why when I'm the same actually as you, the goal isn't necessarily that figure. It's I know a certain figure will reflect a certain level of impact. So there's a case of, okay, well, growing this business to this level will equal this monetary, that's cash flow and, business. But that's not the goal. The goal is the impact and the difference and the purpose behind what that business is and does. I suppose, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly about the female energy. It is different. We are different in how we are genetically put together. So
we've just been raised to, we all have feminine and masculine energy. Men have feminine and masculine energy. We have, whatever gender you are, you do have feminine and masculine energy. But we've been raised to be in our masculine as women. And so we're trying to create and build our businesses the masculine way, missing out on, I always feel like the best and the most optimal levels of success is that balance of feminine and masculine.
Yeah.
So connecting to your intuition and channeling an idea and then taking action on it. That's that combination of the two.
Yeah. Beautifully put. Oh, honestly, I could talk about this with you all day long and go down lots of different paths. And I know our time is precious, and I'm really grateful to you, to this conversation, and just being really open and exploring this with us today. Is there any particular thing that you would be really, I guess, passionate about making sure our listeners take away? Like, if there's one thing that you're keen for them to walk away with from this podcast, what would it be?
If I was to add something new, it would be to aim way higher than what you currently are, because most women are underselling themselves and playing small. And the thing that you're aiming for is the thing that your mind is most scared of. So if you aim much higher, you're more likely to hit where you really want to go. Is that one of my favorite phrases is aim for the moon, land amongst the stars. If you're setting your sights much higher, you're going to go way further. Even if you don't get to that much higher place, you're still going to go way further than if you're aiming too small.
Great. Yeah. Take from that whatever you will, because that could mean so many things to so many people. I sometimes feel like I aim too high and then forget to celebrate the small milestones along the way. But I love that. And anything is possible, and you can have it all, right? It's just tuning in to yourself. Natasha, thank you so much for being with us today. We will share the links that we talked about in the show notes. Where's the best place for people to connect with you if they're itching to ping a question to you or reach out to you?
So I love to connect with people. You can connect with me on Facebook, Natasha Leigh Bray, or on Instagram, same, Natasha Leigh Bray.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, we will put those links in as well. Once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright, because you were born to be brilliant.